Okay, so I'm back and I'm getting ready to bring Jeremy back on in. Got to send him the code here, so bear with me just a little bit. But one of those lovely things that happens when you're trying to run live. Um, y- yeah. Okay, so it looks like we're going to actually have Nick joining us as well. So, yeah, bear with me just a second. Looks like we're probably going to have Nick coming on in as, oh no, that's Central. So, he wants to come in at 4. So, 5 Central? Yeah, 5 Central. So, yeah. So, yeah, it doesn't look like our Facebook is going to like us today. So,
Really?
yeah. Um, I don't know what to say here, but you know what? I guess we'll just go um, and take them out, and we'll just put on our Twitter. How does that sound?
Well, what's it saying on your end?
It is saying, let's see here. It says we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook's end. Possibly it was ended or deleted on Facebook. We'll keep trying and let you know if it's resolved. So I don't know. But everything else is running. Everything else is running fine. I'll try to set it up one more time and see what happens. And even if not, we're just going to get going. How does that sound?
I'm gonna test something here.
So I mean, it is kind of funny that at first they all get the green check marks, but then all of a sudden they turn red. So hopefully, looking okay right now. I don't know. So nope, there they go. Booted us off again. So, but so, uh, but I guess Nick. I was having Nick come on in 30 minutes, but he asked to come on at 5 Central instead. Um,
Well, hey, hang on. I just went live on the network, so it's working on my end.
huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, Let me do this and see what's going on my end over here. Yeah. Uh, I have last hour show on there, but that's all I've got. I'm not seeing me, but we are still on live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch right now. So as far as I'm concerned, we will move on with this and and continue. Um, I mean, we will. Hey, I recognize that stupid voice anywhere. So, Jeremy,
Well,
you guys have allowed us to
trying
join.
something out here. I took the YouTube link and I'm gonna put it here on Facebook.
That's a pretty good idea. I like that idea. Yeah, there's that. So, um, yeah, this is I'm extremely happy that we were able to join with you, uh, in doing what in promoting this program because this is one of the programs that we really need to see more of. We need to see more. things like this, because there are so many issues um, that people are, they kind of forget about unless it's in their face. And our veterans are a group of people who served our country, and they
Yep.
did great things for us. And look, I don't care if it's wartime, peacetime, party time, potty time. They gave up of their lives to serve for our country. And it seems like a lot of times they get lost. What are we going to need to do, Jeremy, to get people to wake up and realize that this is not a good thing?
No, it's not. And a lot of times, in a few cases, some people really don't care. But a lot of times, it's one of those things where out of sight, out of mind deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's just not. It's really hard to tell somebody that they need to, that they should be supporting anything. It's not really. I guess it's not really our right to make sure that, hey, you need to watch this, you need to do this. But this is something that if you respect the way that you live, you should understand that there are people out there, there are forces out there that would like to take away the way that we live. There are forces out there that would like to see us, you know, all standing in soup lines and doing everything else that, the rest of the country does.
Mhm.
There are people who don't like our freedoms. Well, because our freedoms are different than their way of life, and they would rather see us live the way that they do. I'm not going to bash anybody else's way of living, because there's some people who are forced to live that way.
Yeah. In fact, I was just reading an article in the People magazine about a lady who had just gotten out of a cult in New York. And she had been stuck in that way of life for over 10 years. And a lot of it had to do with blackmail and extortion. So she was forced to live in those conditions until somehow the leader of that cult got arrested, and they were all able to break free. And now at least this one here is speaking out about it.
And you know what scares me? I think one of the things that probably scares me the most is that there are certain people who are going to hear that story, and they're going to be like going, so,
Right.
it's, so,
It's basically like that because it doesn't affect them.
yep. Not my monkey, not my circus type thing.
Yep.
And that just, it doesn't, well, to me, it doesn't make any sense. It just really doesn't. So, why, why are people so opposed to, I get, this is something that's really bugging me lately. Why are people so opposed to freedom? Why all of a sudden, why is the Constitution under fire? And I'm not talking about the one guy that everybody thinks I'm talking about. Okay, I'm talking about both sets that want to take away certain freedoms. So don't be thinking that I'm just talking about the one orange guy. I'm not. But why is our Constitution all of a sudden become just a piece of paper that everybody can, uh, you know, they can use it however the hell they want?
Yeah. It see the thing is, the way that I look at it is that our freedom was fought for in a very big way. Um, I know that there had been wars over the centuries, but the Revolutionary War was basically that, revolutionary. Um, and I don't know how really how life was over there, but in England during that time. But we have a fair idea of how life was over here, and they didn't like what was going on over there because they were deciding what was happening here when whatever rules and dictations that they had, it would take what 3 months before it come out here.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was is that you know, the biggest argument was is that the American colonies, they were getting taxed, yet
Yes.
they had nobody in Parliament to stand up for us, and it was just seen as, you know, pish posh. It doesn't matter what those little people want. You know, they're there, we're here, we're going to do whatever we want to do with them, and they need to deal with it. And that's, you know, and that's really what started this off. And they started overtaxing things and overtaxing, you know, Americans. And again, there was no representation in Parliament for them, so they couldn't argue. They couldn't sit there and say, "Hey, wow, man, this is really unfair. How come, you know, we're getting taxed, you know, $17 on a pound of sugar, and people in England are using it as toothpaste?" You know, and that's really how the country was born. Is we stood up to tyranny, and it was our veterans that did that.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, back then it was a bunch of farmers and militias, but they became a fighting force.
Right, but the difference between um, what they had, the army that they had then, and the army that we got now, is that the ones that we have in the armies now, they are fighting for America. They are fighting for the ideals of America. Then they were literally fighting for their land.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like let's say you and I are neighbors and we hate each other. I want your land, you want my land. Back then, you and I would have gotten into fisticuffs. Now, hey Joe, go fight his person.
Yeah. Yep.
That it's kind of sad to look at it that way, but I think that's pretty much what has come to be. And it's like that all the way around the world. It's not just here. It's not just in England. It's Japan. It's Korea. It's Germany. It's everywhere.
See, I don't understand why we're, you know, why are we not able to, you, you know, the word compromise now has become such a filthy word. You know, look, the truth is that compromise is a word that's very uh that's very easy to understand. Okay, you win, I win, neither of us is happy. That's compromise. Okay, look, you didn't get everything you wanted, I didn't get everything I wanted. It's called compromise. And we can't, you know, we sit there and we're fighting about stuff, you know, because you're a blue state and I'm a red state, or, you know, you're Catholic, I'm Muslim, whatever it is. We're sitting here fighting between each other, and our government's sitting there loving it because they're like going, they don't even know what the hell we're doing. They don't care. They're, you know, they hate each other.
It's not just the government, even though they're the ones that basically sanction the whole thing. But when you really look at it, war is a very, very successful enterprise because we go to war now. All of these other places are making money by building guns, building
Mm-hmm.
bullets. So companies like that, they want companies like that, they want countries going to war so that they can profit off of them. That's why years and years and years ago, when I was laid off and I was trying to look for a job, I was very conflicted about having to apply at a company that makes guns because nobody was hiring. So I was almost going to have to take, whoever would pick me up. And this company that makes the guns, they're a mile and a half away from me. So the commute would have been great. But the whole time I'd be sitting there, this gun that I got in my hands is going to be used to kill people.
See, I'm one of those guys that, like I said, I don't want to say I'm complex because I'm not. I'm an idiot. I've got my beliefs. I've got my views, and I think that, a gun is no worse than a hammer. It's the brain that holds that gun that does the damage. Now, a gun can do it in a more efficient and violent way. I think that what we've got to do is we've got to speak out when we see somebody who's not right. And you hear it all the time that I'm in a situation right now that that we try to tell people about somebody having actions that are not proper, and we get told all the time, but you're the safest place for this individual to be right now. Okay, wait a minute. That's awesome. That's great. So if this person snaps and we die, it's okay because he's safe. Are we? What do we need to do to make sure that there's responsibility taken by people in the mental health world? Because like a lot of people, they're passing their duty on to other people. It's like, well, we're so overrun. Yeah, so are millions of other people, and part of I think one of the biggest problems with our mental health areas right now are they focus more on covering issues than trying to talk through issues and fix issues. We're giving, one of the main causes of veteran suicide is poisonings, which is alcohol and drugs. We're not trying to help our veterans stop drinking and doing drugs. What we're doing is we're giving them another chemical that's produced in a lab that gets them addicted to something other than alcohol and drugs. And if they go off that, they start to lose their mind. There's no sense in that, Jeremy. I've never seen sense in giving an addict something addictive. And
again, is all about the commerce. They look at it as, okay, well, yeah, we're helping them, but we are also making money off of it. It's the same way with the gun companies. These industries look for vulnerabilities and then try to capitalize on that.
And there's no checks and balances. And that unfortunately is something that just runs rampant in the government anyway, is that there's nobody to, we're in a system that is supposed to be taking care of us, that is supposed to be taking care of the people who, takes care of them. Yet all they do is take care of themselves.
Yes.
So
that you're basically going to find that no matter what you look into with some sort of a leadership structure, is that leadership is always talking about taking care of what they're supposed to do, taking care of their customers, their consumers, but they're also looking at it, well, if we don't cater to them, we're not going to get any money. So we
yeah,
need to do what we can to supply them with this, this, and that, whether it's good for them or not.
one of the other things that is and I don't know if you've been able to catch any of the show today, but one of the things that has really been bugging me recently, it's after I read something last night. There is there's a thing out there that was explaining to me that these kids, when they do their service time, say they go in for 2 or 4 years, they get the training on all of this high tech equipment. They get to go in there. They work with the best of the best equipment. They work with equipment that the general public doesn't have any opportunity to work with because oh no. Yet when they go to try to find a job because they don't have the correct degree, they're not offered that job. And so they have to go and they have to settle for a lower paying job, or they get defeated personally and they just fall off the edge. We're in a country right now where, and this is probably going to stir up a hornet's nest. I know it is, but it is what it is. There is more there are more jobs available than there are people to fill the jobs who want to work.
Want
And
to work.
yeah, want to work.
That's yeah, that is the key phrase right there. And what's sad, because of the pandemic, a lot of people discovered, hey, I can stay home, do nothing, and make more money than I would if I had a job.
Yeah, yeah.
So what
And this would be something, this would be a golden opportunity for our veterans if they weren't homeless and they didn't have, or and they had an address. But they're required to have an address, and they can't have an address because they can't get a job. It's a never-ending cycle is basically what I'm trying to get at here. And it's annoying
no
because you know
different.
what?
It's no different from when you go for an interview. Well, we need somebody with experience.
Yeah.
Well, how am I supposed to get the experience if you won't let me get that experience?
Yep. 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 And you are so right there. It's like, well,
yeah,
come back and talk to us when you have experience.
yeah. Well, and by that time, you know what? There is a company out there that will give me experience. I get the experience there. I'm probably going to want to stay there, so I'm not going to come and work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And more as times go, that company is going to end up overseas, which is going to end up taking away jobs from,
Yeah.
people who, and it just, there is just so much wrong that needs to be fixed. And a lot of these organizations that we're working with, that we're trying to raise money for today, every single one of them has a different plan of support, and they're going to attack this issue in a different way. Okay, you've everything from and I'm just gonna run through the list again because it's hard just to name them all. The Veterans Ranch, which is in Florida, they do equine therapy. We got into a talk earlier about motorcycles and horses. One individual one machine slash animal. It's peace. That's the best way to put it. It's peace. The Veterans Ranch puts a grooming brush in a veteran's hand and lets them become emotionally attached to an animal that's not meant to trust them. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful story. And JR, as you, as I, he's a patriot. He's not a veteran.
There are two people that I know of that can speak so passionately about the relationship between a human and a horse, because they work with the horses. One's in South Africa and the other one's in the UK. They work with horses, and to them it's like there is nothing more precious and nothing more sacred, especially on the horses' end, because they put their lives and their trust into you, same way that you are with them. But for them, it probably means more.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I've always said, look, my horse is made out of steel and has two rubber wheels. But it's the same way. And that's the reason why you see so many veterans ride motorcycles. It's a passion. It's, horses, motorcycles, like I said, one animal, one machine, one human. And you get on the thing and you can kind of forget yourself. We're also raising money for veterans, honoring veterans, which gives statues to our deserving vets. That reminds them, hey, we're here. We love you. We care. Nick.
Hey guys, sorry I'm a minute or two late.
Oh, that's just perfectly fine. We've also got Healing Warriors. We had Janet on earlier. Free medical care for the people, for our veterans. Absolutely free. Doesn't cost them a dime. No prescriptions given. This is all natural. Just wonderful massage slash acupuncture and other remedies to help them sleep and help them recover. Project Die Hard. This is in your guys' neighborhood. It's in the Kentucky area. It's a program where they're trying to put together homes for our veterans and offer them therapy, offer them a chance to get out of the service and adjust to normal life. GI Josie helps our female veterans who have quite a different path than the male veterans. And a guy's never going to know everything that a female had to go through because, well, we're not females. So it is different. It's a different healing and it's a different way. And then Hope Advanced is they help people with background checks and credit history and help them build them both back up, because you know what, we were all young, we've all made mistakes. Hope Advanced is here to help them. Jeremy, one of the other groups that we're working to help support is Paranormal Giving Tree. Please give us a little bit of history on Paranormal Giving Tree.
Paranormal Giving Tree was actually started under a different name called the Paranormal Relief Project, and it was a way of saying thank you to the first responders that worked so diligently through the pandemic. And that was started under Toy Westhoff. I think she lives in Iowa, but I'm not certain on that one. So she's the one that came up with the whole concept. I came in, and then we had Matt Warner from Massachusetts, I believe. And it was the three of us that ended up heading the whole thing by the time it was implemented. And really all it was just one of those events where locations come in and they donate the buildings for one night, for 6-7 hours or what have you. It was different at the different locations. And the people in those industries, whether they worked in the hospitals, police, fire department, anywhere in the medical field, they came in and got to investigate the locations for free. Then Toy handed it off to me, and we ran it last year. Quite a bit fewer locations, but there was a lot of delays in the process of it. And this time we turned the focus towards the military, both active and retired or discharged. This year we have went back to first responders. And starting next year, I don't know where we're going to go from there. But
I would actually kind of like to see us open it up to both sets, and just call it and just open it up to one simple word: hero. Because if you're a hero, you deserve to be there.
But I would like to take this and have that one night event as just an event for the Giving Tree. I want the Giving Tree itself to expand to be able to do more than just that event. But you got to start off small before you can eventually grow.
Yep. Nobody starts running before they crawl. So.
Right.
And then the last organization that we're raising money for is part of our company, and it is Community Dare to Care, where we take and we bring in donations from people, clothing, housewares, food, toys, items that get lost sometimes during tragic events, or maybe bad things happen and they need to be replaced. Maybe a new life has to start immediately.
Excuse me.
Well, Community Dare to Care is there to offer free donations to people, because you know what? They're not ours to sell. They're ours to make sure that they get onto the back of people, and that's what we want to do with Community Dare to Care. Jeremy, you and I are going to reconvene at 7:30, right? Your time? Yeah.
My time.
What's that?
Well,
are you Eastern?
I'm Eastern.
Okay, you're Eastern. So yeah, 8:30 your time then. Yeah. So we're going to reconvene at 8:30 your time after Irene and her friend Patty come on at 8 o'clock. Nick, you've got a special slideshow for us, my friend.
Yes, I do. I actually just made some last minute changes just before I came on. The slideshow I'm going to present is going to be a little bit different compared to previous ones, because I know I messaged you earlier, but what this slideshow is going to be is I had a really hard time trying to figure out which exact location I wanted to focus on. So what I decided to do instead, to make it a little bit easier for me, is I decided to do a countdown of 10 to 15 different locations. So I got the presentation ready if you guys are ready for me to present it.
You know what, brother? I think that what I want to do is I don't want to ruin this. I think I'm going to kick back in the background here, and I'm going to enjoy it for a change. I think people have heard me talk enough today, and they still have to deal with it a little bit more after this. But after you're done speaking, we're going to have my beautiful bride and Jan come on in an hour and a half. So you have an hour and a half to do what you need to do, my buddy boy. Is that going to give you enough time?
I can see. I'm not sure if it's going to be for a full hour and a half, but it will be for a full hour, though.
You know what? If we need to jump back on, if we need to jump back on, we'll be watching, and we'll take on back over until Jan and Adrian do this. But the floor again, Nick. This was the first combined thing that Jeremy and I did, is we got together and we said, hey, Nick, I love what you do. The work that he does and the investigating he does. And I asked Jeremy flat out, hey, can I steal Nick? Can I have him on the PAC channels as well? And Jeremy was like, by God, the kid deserves it. Yes, we want to share the world with him. So Jeremy and I are very, very proud to introduce you guys to Nick Muley with the Nick Files. Nick, it's all yours. Jeremy, if you want to stick around, that's fine. But I'm shutting my camera off and I'm going to disappear for a while.
I'm actually going to go ahead and disappear for a little bit too, because one, I need to get a shower, and two, I do need to finish working the section of the story that I'm working on. I have a 2,300 word goal, and I'm about 500 short of that, so I need to get back to work on that.
Wow.
I think I would take a shower, but I would probably fall through the drain, and that's a lot of fat guy falling through a drain. So, but instead, I think I'm just going to sit here and watch Nick. So, hey, everybody, enjoy this. We'll be back shortly. Nick, it's all you. I am excited for this. Take it away.
All right, then.
All right, enjoy, Nick.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. All right, so let me get the slideshow ready in just a moment. Okay, here we go. Just want to make sure, as I always check, just because whenever I do these, I always got to make sure that the slideshow is actually showing. Give me 1 second here. Going on the live feed, and as I always say right at the start of all these at all these slideshows, I'm unable to really see comments from anybody, so I do apologize for that matter. Let's see here. Okay, I think we're good. All right, awesome. All right, so as I mentioned before, in response, obviously, for Project Die Hard, instead of this episode's going to be a little bit different than previous episodes, as I just recently said. We're going to be focusing in this case not on one location, but I really had to do some thinking on this. So instead of focusing on one location, which, you know, usually I go through a lot of the details, we are going to be looking into the top 15 haunted military bases and forts. Now, it's not only just here for the United States. It's also, I did add one from a different country in to give that, you know, I guess a little bit, I'm not really sure how to describe it, to be honest, but I decided to go a little bit further and beyond than just focusing on our U.S. and military bases. I did keep a lot of these relatively short because I did copy a lot of this from some of the websites where I did find some of this information, but it should be enough to last for a good portion of the hour. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So going right from the start, number 15 is Barksdale Air Force Base out in Louisiana. So again, it's keeping it real short because I really wish I had a little bit more time to add information, but I really got more into the paranormal side of it. But I did add a little bit of history onto it. So focusing on Barksdale Air Force Base, in a state rife with history and ghost stories, which is not surprising for a state like Louisiana, knowing the history that took place since the state's founding. It takes some big scares to make an impression. The spirits at the Barksdale Air Force Base seem up to the task. On base, the hospital was at one point located along Davis Avenue. Contemporary military staff working along the street seemed to experience the structure's echoes. Many have reported doors slamming shut on their own, the sounds of running in empty corridors, and being assaulted by objects flinging themselves across the rooms. I don't know what's going on, but as soon as I said that, I don't know if you guys saw that, but my light just started flickering. That's never happened before. Then again, we have been having we're having an ice storm right now, so I just hope that the power doesn't go out. All right, so yeah, like I said, some of these are going to be relatively short, but again, it should be enough. So going now to number 14, which is Little Bighorn out in Montana. So the site of the most significant battle during the Great Sioux War of 1876. Massive amounts of death took place on these plains in Montana. You have to remember, too, for a state like Montana, I think a lot of people always think that Montana is this very rural state where not too many people live, very mountainous, full of, terrain. And yes, truthfully, yeah, and obviously, yes, on most occasions, even still today, much of the state is mainly sparsely populated. unless you're in the downtown areas, like the most heavily populated areas, it's pretty empty throughout the state. But that doesn't fully mean, as I just wrote, that does not fully mean that even whether it's a state or if it was a former territory, that a war could have still broken out, which could have resulted in a loss of life. I was unable to find pictures for all these locations. I mean, yes, I had them right at the beginning, but I wasn't able to find any that had that creepy vibe to it. So some of these are going to won't have an image to it, but either way, the story is going to still sound interesting. The shortened stories are going to still sound interesting. So today it's now a national monument, which it is also the final resting place of 5,000 veterans whose souls may still roam the grounds. Inside the Stonehouse Library, lights flicker on and off as mysterious footsteps pace the abandoned second floor. A ghostly woman has been spotted descending the steps, and the disembodied head and torso of a soldier appear in windows from time to time. I think if I'm saying this correctly, on Custer Battlefield, visitors have witnessed spectral battles playing out a shadow cavalry race across the bluffs. Now, one thing I want to say in particular about this is typical of a lot of these haunted, battlefields that, whether we're familiar with or not. Seeing these, if you want to call them reenactments or ghostly reenactments of where a battle occurred, it's typical for such locations to have that type of activity occur where people will literally witness a war right in front of them. It could be, and I think it's something we're all familiar with when it comes to the paranormal encounters. We've seen that a lot in the battlefields of Gettysburg. Of course, they have that too in Antietam in Virginia, which is also associated with the Civil War. There are stories like that associated with the Revolutionary War. It's no surprise. It's not surprising to me when it comes to like Custer Battlefield that you would have that same experience out in that part of the country.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, are you supposed to be having slides popping up? Because we're not seeing any slides.
Oh, it's not showing up?
No, it's not.
Hold on one second. Hang on. That's weird. That's never happened before. Here, tell me if you can see it once I do this. Hold on. Let's try this again. See, I checked before and it was working previously. Let's try this again. All right, do you see it now?
Here we go.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. Oh man, that freaked me out there a little bit.
All right, man. I appreciate it. I just wanted to get in here and make sure that we were good. All right.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what happened, but thank you. Seriously. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do with this from this point on. We're gonna hang on. All right, now I just read a lot of this already, but I'll just show you at least a minute or two of the locations just to get an idea of what these locations look like. Give me one. Let me just put this up just so you guys can get an idea. Again, sorry for the mix-up. So that was Barksdale. Good thing it was only just 2 locations. So now here was the other one on Little Bighorn. All right, and like I said, there was no picture to this anyway, so we'll just continue on to the next one then. Oh, no, wait, there was a photo for this. It was supposed to actually show up right at the first. I guess I forgot to put it as the first dissolve in. So, but after explaining the whole thing, I think you guys kind of get the idea for Little Bighorn. So let's continue forward then to number 13, Fort Monroe, which is out in Virginia, I believe in Hampton, Virginia, if I'm correct on that. So for Fort Monroe, It's seen many significant historic events during its active years. Nowadays, it's become known for the high level of paranormal activity on the grounds. It's rumored, surprisingly, that the ghost of acclaimed author Edgar Allan Poe, once stationed at Fort Monroe as an artilleryman, which is something I never even knew about, to be honest, because I'm a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan, can be seen pacing high up on the fort's battlements. Who would have guessed someone who wrote so many ghost stories would be associated with a fort that was heavily involved in war, especially during its active years? The shadowy, now even more amazingly, the shadowy forms of other famous figures, including Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, and Chief Black Hawk, have all been added to a growing list of celebrity ghosts within Monroe's walls. During an investigation into the claims of paranormal happenings, a team of paranormal enthusiasts caught electronic voice phenomena of a young girl calling out to her cats. An interesting turn of events, considering the misty four-legged figure has often been reported near the southwestern ramparts. I did a little research on this particular location, and surprisingly, despite of what I found, unless I missed something, I was unable to find really any information whatsoever involving a young girl that stayed in a fort. I mean, especially in those days, I don't even think any type of female was really allowed onto such bases like this because, typical, especially from that time, this was usually a male-only type of job. So how a young girl could have gotten inside this fort is beyond me, especially involving if she's trying to look for cats that apparently hung around. So now we go to number 12, Kadena Air Base. This is the only one that I added, as I mentioned earlier. This is the only one that I added that is not from the United States. It's actually located out in Okinawa, Japan. So one of the few military bases I was able to find that actually did have ghost stories to it. So that's quite amazing to see learn something about this overseas. If I had a little bit more time, I certainly probably would have made a full slideshow for this location, because this is one I definitely would like to know more about. So a little bit on the history on it, along with the ghost stories. Located in Okinawa, Japan, the Kadena Air Base is host to several haunted hotspots. Among them are Building 2283 and the Installation Gate. While patrolling at the gate, numerous guards have encountered a blood-soaked soldier in World War II garb. I don't know where that came from. Always inquiring after a light for a cigarette. Now, understandably, for such a base like this, that was the one thing that just crossed my mind immediately, was this had to be an air base that was involved during World War II. And indeed it was. Ironically enough, though, I don't know how far it would have been, but I do know that, if I'm correct on this, I thought originally that there was also a U.S. base that was constructed not far in that same area of Okinawa, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've learned the story for the U.S. that's created a base. But this one entirely that we're focusing on, though, was actually constructed for Japan itself. Additionally, residents and staff of Building 2283, once a single-family home, have heard laughs and entered rooms to find their faucets and lights switched, accompanied by the drifting sounds of children laughing. Never would expect a location where so much death occurred that you would actually hear laughing, whether it was from adults or children. Going down to number 11, Joint Base, one place that we're all familiar with, Pearl Harbor, Hickam. Believe it or not, Even before the events of December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor was surrounded by rich local folklore. However, following the devastating surprise attack in which 2,403 soldiers lost their lives, numerous military members began witnessing terrifying paranormal events. Just before we get to the paranormal stuff, I just want to say on a side note, because since we're doing this obviously in response of Project Die Hard, I think it's probably important for me to say that my grandfather, if I'm saying this correctly, later was stationed at Pearl Harbor about a year or two after the attacks occurred on December 7th. I'm not sure how big of a role or how long he really stayed for, but according to what my parents told me, he was stationed there for a little while during World War II. So, but going on back to the paranormal events, in bunks and machine rooms, the lights would flicker on and off while cabinets and doors flung themselves open. Staff at the Base Museum have heard disembodied murmurs and phonograph music wafting from the main floor. Otherworldly activity on the grounds has become so frequent that multiple paranormal investigators have flocked to the grounds, capturing spectral orbs, footsteps, and voices. Number 10, West Point Military Academy, which is out in New York. Jeez, almost looks like where I was in Wildwood. It's very same mountainous terrain. Probably weren't too far from there, actually. So, especially a location like this, it is often ranked as one of the most haunted places in the state. West Point has earned a reputation for both its academic excellence and paranormal activity. Rulis reported that in 1972, multiple cadets saw a spectral figure dressed in a vintage school uniform drifting around room 4714. Students also claimed to have had their bed covers tossed and possessions moved without explanation. These reports were taken seriously enough that after the incident in 1972, the school's superintendent asked famed demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren to tour the grounds in an attempt to communicate with the spirits. That's no surprise, especially from that era. Oh, it didn't say I wish they had a little bit. It's too bad I couldn't find any more information about if there was what they got, what the results were. Damn. Okay, then. Going down to number 9, which is Plattsburgh Air Force Base, which, let's see here, what do we got? Oh, this is this is fascinating. This was the only photo I was able to find of the booth in front of the military base. There were a few other photos I was able to find of it on Google Image, but it had people in front of it. I had to do my best to try to find one without anyone standing, and this historical photograph was the only one I was able to find. But covering 3,447 acres in the extreme northeast corner of New York, located on the western shore of Lake Champlain, opposite of Burlington, Vermont, in the city of Plattsburgh, New York. Funny enough, again, on a quick side note, when I think of Lake Champlain, that's where the Lake Champlain monster, or better known as Champions, lurk in. Now a civilian airport, an industrial complex operated by the Plattsburgh Air Force Base and Authority, has seen its fair share of paranormal activity since opening its doors in 1838. The base closed on September 25th, 1995, pursuant to the Defense Base Realignment and Closure Act of 1990 and the recommendations of the Defense Base Realignment and Closure Commission. There have been multiple accounts from soldiers and civilians alike of shadow figures dressed in antiquated garb wandering the on-base cemetery. Figures materialize without warning in the old stone barracks, where numerous soldiers allegedly took their own lives. that's now got me curious and wondering what made a lot of these soldiers take their own lives. Although one theory I can come up with, I can't say for sure. Um, I guess obviously when it comes to wars and if they end up going back to their military bases, could have been PTSD. They couldn't live with the fact of the horrors that they witnessed. I mean, let's be honest. This is something that I'm sure we're all familiar with saying, but war is truly hell when you think about it. So, that it could certainly haunt you for probably the rest of your life, especially after what you experience or what you do during such horrific events. Matthew Boyer, if I'm saying that right, the owner of the Greater Adirondack Ghost and Tour Company, recounted to the Military Times shadowy figures dressed in period clothing have been seen promenading along the porches, only to disappear through one of the many boarded up entryways. Sorry, I had to move something so I could read the rest of it. See, normally I usually do this on my laptop, but unfortunately where I do it is unavailable today, so I have to use my desktop instead. Okay, so going down to number 8, Fort Concho, which is in I believe that's down in Texas. Yeah, it is. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, this was down in Texas. Despite closing in 1889, it seems the grounds of Fort Concho have not yet been abandoned. Several staff and visitors claim to have witnessed what they believe to be the spectral form of Commander Ronald Mackenzie roaming the grounds near Officers' Row. Some have spotted the spirit of Edith Grierson, the daughter of a post commander who died of typhoid in the late 1870s. Sorry, I just had while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to share this out. And yes, I also just looked up just to be on the safe side. So this Fort Concho is located in San Angelo, Texas. So I was right. I just didn't have the town name itself. Yet others have remarked on the inexplicable smell of roses wafting through the dank hallways, the suspected handiwork of Lieutenant Francis Henry French. French served as the last officer before the fort closed and was an avid gardener, surprisingly. Number 7, Fort Leavenworth, out in Kansas. So most of the crumbling brick buildings of the Youngstown garrison predate the U.S. military's tenure on the base, some dating back to Japan's pre-World War II occupation. One of these buildings is shrouded in mystery and terror. According to a U.S. Army garrison spokesperson, multiple soldiers have claimed that the building, rumored to have once been a crematorium, is haunted. Many have described ominous feelings that cause the hair on the back of their necks to raise up, as well as shadow figures and unexplainable noises emanating from the forsaken halls. Sorry, I was also looking at something else just to add. Whoops. Oh, that's it for that one. I actually decided to look this one up in particular because I did look again at a little bit of some of the information on, just to give a quick history lesson, if you will, on Fort Leavenworth. I'm only just going to read just a little bit of this, but originally it was known as Cantonment Leavenworth. It was established by Henry Leavenworth on the Missouri River on May 8th, 1827, almost 200 years ago. It was the first settlement in Kansas Territory, and believe it or not, it is still to this day the oldest active Army post west of the Mississippi River. It was dedicated to protecting the fur trade and safeguarding commanders on the Santa Fe Trail. So amazing that such a base like this, after 200 years, is still in operation. Just looking for anything else on the ghost stories itself. Unfortunately, It's going to take, it would take me a little while for me to look it up. Like I said, all these locations that I'm covering, I know I'm kind of keeping it short, but these locations will eventually have their own slideshow. So that way I could tell the full story on these locations. Oh, I forgot to add a dissolve in for this picture. So we go now to number 6, which is the Francis E. Warren Air Force Base. I know it doesn't look very much like an Air Force base, but especially with the picture that shows here, but this was in fact part of the Air Force Base. Beginning in operations in 1867, F.E. Warren has seen its fair share of tragedy. In the 1920s, not far from the present day base, cavalry troops assaulted and murdered a young indigenous woman along White Crow Creek. I forgot to add the location in case you guys want to know where this is located. It is located in, bear with me for just a moment. This one is located out in, it's about approximately 3 miles west of Cheyenne, Wyoming. So, but in addition to, anyways, going back to this woman that was murdered, her screams have echoed across the years to such an extent that multiple airmen have called base security forces to report them. Responders are usually sympathetic, noting that their own building, number 34, which I believe this is the building right here, often causes their canine units to cower when they reach its steps. It was once the hospital, complete with a basement morgue. I can already see where this is going. Inside 34's hallways, residents have often spotted a spectral nurse completing her eternal rounds. This might be ending a little bit sooner than expected, but we'll see how far we can go with this. Number 5, the Joint Base Lewis McChord near out in Washington. Once the site of a hotel known as the Red Shield Inn, the military base has had its fair share of paranormal activity, including an alleged exorcism. This one definitely stands out from all the others, especially the fact that there was an exorcism involved, because as far as I know, this is the first type of location of any type other than residential locations where apparently an exorcism occurred. That's pretty much a surprise and new thing for me for such a location like this. According to the JBLM Army Museum, in 1927, a worker on the set of the Patton Leather Kid was murdered at the inn. Following the incident, staff began seeing a shadowy man in a cowboy hat and brown jacket wandering the halls. The haunting continued after the hotel closed its doors, prompting the recruitment of 3 priests to banish the spirit. While the exorcism has yet to be confirmed by the Catholic Church, museum staff continue to experience odd sounds and equipment malfunctions. It's kind of even more bizarre that they have never really even confirmed that this exorcism took place, but I understand how a lot of people may have been frightened by seeing this figure. I just don't understand what made them go to the extreme of wanting to have an exorcism performed, if it ever was performed to begin with. Going down to number 4, which is the March Air Reserve Base. This is out in, I believe, in California. Yeah. Serving as a children's tuberculosis clinic early in its history, the March Air Reserve Base Hospital has seen many deaths. Several contemporary staff and service members have encountered the ghosts of what they believe to be former patients running and laughing in the corridors. While conducting a paranormal investigation, Senior Airband Joe Mora found a member of his team still standing still in shock. Later, she reported that a shadow figure had blocked her exit from the room. Oh, it doesn't Yeah, that's the thing that I have these issues with some of the stuff I found her. It didn't say what happened. So what I'm actually going to do very quickly is there's got to be more to the story on some of these encounters that occurred. So, okay, so on March Air Force Air Reserve, I'm just trying to extend the slideshow a little bit, even if I don't have it on here. I'm just trying to extend it just to give a little bit more info on this. Okay, so at one point here, he says, I've heard stories from people who have noticed figures or shadows walking down a hallway or sitting in a chair, heard knocking and whistling noises, and doors slamming without probable cause, Moore said. But it still doesn't say. Oh, wait, here we go. So the account, what he later wrote was, when we entered the room, she was white as a ghost, and her eyes were big as saucers. We asked her what happened, and she said there was a shadow figure standing right in front of me, blocking my way out. You could tell she wasn't making stuff up. She was scared. She looked scared. One thing that was not featured on this is that he's also said that during the investigation, I guess the person, her name was Frida. Frida asked where the light was, but thought nothing of it until they heard the audio that had been recorded during that session. When she said, "Where's the light?" a voice on the recording said, "It's over there." And that they said, I can't even say that last name correctly, but someone else says, and that wasn't us. All right, so it does actually give a little bit more information on this. Okay, so going down to number 3, which is the Vancouver Barracks. If I'm saying Barracks, that's what it is. I've always had trouble saying that word correctly. All right, so to give a little history on this place, dating back to the 1800s, the Vancouver Barracks in Washington are now believed to be one of the most haunted military installations in the Pacific Northwest. In the Barracks Hospital, numerous sources have reported being alone in the building, only to hear the sounds of nearby footsteps. Staff also note that the building's fire alarms and other security devices seem to continuously malfunction. Building 647 is another hotbed of activity. Employees return to find locked doors they made sure to lock mysteriously open. One civilian custodian even went so far as to place tape over the door to check for tampering. When he returned, the door was unlocked, but the tape hadn't been touched. No surprise there. This is now another one that's kind of grabbed my attention. I mean, obviously, man, I don't even know really what to say about this one, but I just felt this kind of, drawn towards it, if you will. So we're definitely going to have to make a full slideshow on this one, but it's definitely, I don't know. Seeing that it's considered also one of the most haunted military installations, I definitely would like to know more, because I know at that time, I don't even know if Washington State even existed at that time, but it makes you wonder, what role did the Vancouver Barracks, I keep having trouble saying that word, how big of a role that they played, especially military-wise. Okay, so number 2, the Alamo, which is in San Antonio, Texas. A 13-day siege led to the deaths of nearly 200 soldiers on the grounds of the Alamo mission. Shortly after the battle ended, survivors began reporting strange events which have appeared to have persisted throughout the years. It began with a band of 6 Franciscan monks appearing in the fort's chapel. More recently, an insubstantial figure has been seen pacing hurriedly across the mission's ramparts. In other parts of the mission, smoky forms emerge from the walls amidst the sounds of clashing armies and screams, and visitors often report seeing the torso of a little boy posted in the mission's windows. See, this once again has that. This is something I'm trying to understand, is you got these military bases here that, again, were designed to, be ready for war or, practically fight. What is it that is giving access to kids being there? Although one theory I thought is, could it be one of these survivors' kids that happen to visit the area? I'm not sure, but this is the second location already to see that, again, that there's a child involved. How he played a role in this is beyond me. The only other place there's only one other place I know of, which is not on this list, but I'll still bring it up anyway, is Fort Pulaski, which is in Cockspur Island, Georgia, which once originally served as an impenetrable fortress for the Confederates, and you had well over 600. The fort, in fact, actually fell after the battle in 1861, but 600 Confederate officers were locked up and imprisoned under torturous conditions, which became known as I think it was called the Immortal 600. I could be wrong on the name, but after the fort was closed and eventually became also another tourist attraction as well as a location for investigations, it is said over there that late at night people could hear guns firing, people dying, and a little girl crying. So I don't know. There's just something interesting involving how these kids get into some of these forts. Then again, too, these kids may have not had any type of connection to these wars or military bases at all and could have died at a much later time. So that brings us now to number one. Not necessarily the most haunted base, but the one I'm actually more familiar with, which is Warner Robins Air Force Base in Warner Robins, Georgia. Now, this one also has a little bit of a different type of paranormal haunting, if you will, compared to the other military bases. Warner Robins is surrounded by myths and legends. The nearby city of Macon is home to the infamous Hay House, and not far from the base exists a gravity-defying mound. Warner Robins, however, is known for the multiple UFO sightings experienced on its grounds. I often can't help but wonder how many times they probably captured some of these, especially now with all these cameras running. Interestingly, one of the largest mass bird mortality events in the United States took place there in 1954. On the night of October 7th, approximately 50,000 birds crashed down on the runways. 53 different species were involved in the event, which to date is still baffling experts. Whoops, actually, no, just before we end this, there is something else I'm really familiar with on Warner Robins Air Force Base that surprisingly, they didn't feature this in the information, but fortunately I was able to memorize it. So the talk about the bird mortality event that occurred in 1954, strangely enough, just a year beforehand, and this is actually more on the meteorological kind of side of things, just a year before the bird mortality events, in 1953, there was a massive, which is we now believe was rated to be an F4 on the Fujita scale, a massive F4 tornado struck Warner Robins, Georgia. And it did strike the Air Force Base itself, which it just literally ripped apart a good portion of the Air Force Base, which is even more amazingly, I should have added the footage onto this onto the slideshow. It would have been great to actually show. but there's actual film footage of this tornado, and it's literally right in the middle of Warner Robins Air Force Base. Sadly, 19 people were killed, including supposedly the person that captured the footage of the tornado. Even though I don't have the footage here, which again I should have put it on as a last, at the last minute. Fortunately, this is footage that, as rare as it is, it's not really that difficult to find. You can find that footage actually on YouTube. The footage is only like 20 seconds, but it is believed that the cameraman who filmed it, which you could see maybe not clearly because the footage is in black and white, you could see, though, the outline of the tornado, which shows just how close he really was. And eventually the camera goes black, which is what we assumed was the result of the cameraman's demise. But it's an amazing piece of footage, certainly something to check out. I know, obviously, it's a little bit distant from what we're talking about, but the fact that it occurred in Warner Robins Air Force Base, it's quite footage to behold. So,
hey, Nick, guess what, buddy?
Yeah. Everything okay?
Yep. Here you go.
But
there's the tornado for you.
Oh, you got it. Oh, wait, hang on 1 second. Okay, see, I can't see when I'm. Yep, there you go. Thanks. That's the footage.
So yeah, that I was looking it up when you were talking about it, and yep, there it is.
That's right in Warner Robins Air Force Base.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
You can see how it's slowed down. Those buildings are literally being torn with winds of up to 100 miles per hour in more than just a second. So, but yeah, we don't know for sure if this person actually died, but a lot of people said that he died filming that tornado at the base.
Well, you know what? That was fantastic. I'm not. I had to step upstairs because we got a donation in, and I had to go up and take care of that. I do want to thank Jerry and Lola Clayton. I don't know why that name sounds familiar to me, but they did donate $22 to our efforts. So you know what? We've raised a little bit of money here. Hey, Nick, did you bring up Fort Monmouth, New Jersey?
I didn't. You know what? I didn't even think of that one. I should have added that to the list, but I know a little bit about Fort Monmouth. So if you like for me to talk at least a little bit of the history on it, but if I have any time left.
Yeah, brother man, you got at least another. I just popped on because I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about it. Here's the reason I ask. See, sorry about that. I hope that didn't make too much noise. See that right there? That's my dog tag.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was born at Fort Monmouth Base.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yeah, I was born there. So, and when I was talking to my parents about what you were doing, they said, "Is he going to bring up Fort Monmouth?" And I'm like, I don't know. I talked to him a little bit, and then I came down here and I started looking it up, and yeah, there are quite a few hauntings. Our apartment at the time was in Oceanport, New Jersey, which is 1 mile away, and it looks like there are two locations. One called the Creepy House on the corner of Cemetery Hill, and then another place, partially demolished house facing the road on one corner of Cemetery Hill, West Long Branch. Do you know anything about those locations?
It's surprising. Even though I've heard of Fort Monmouth, I actually haven't heard of those other locations before. So that's really interesting that you brought them up. So, what were they called again? Just so I could have the names for future reference.
One is it's just simply called the Creepy House on the corner of Cemetery Hill. And I'm gonna put this link in our in our private chat first for you to take a look at it, Nick, and now I'm going to put it in the regular comments. This is coming from a site called ghostsofamerica.com.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, it's out in Oceanport. Okay, because when I was looking it up, the first thing that showed up was a different location, especially for Cemetery Hill, and that was more focusing on Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so it looks like there's also a place called Little Silver. The very big 2-story with the big backyard, and West Long Branch, 2 miles away, that are also places of interest. So, yeah, but like I said, I was born there. So, and when my father mentioned that, you know, it was a haunted place, I was like, really? Okay. So let me ask you a question, Nick. What is it that drives you towards the paranormal? What is it that you really and you really love this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, you know, honestly, at first, I think it was just like curiosity to begin with, but I think it's just, I guess, really getting to the bottom of things, of like trying to not necessarily prove, but really try to kind of more send a message, if you will, of trying to let everyone know that this stuff does exist, and it's certainly something that, you know, whether you believe it or not, at least have people out there be aware about it, because there are so many people out there who just refuse to accept that this kind of stuff exists. Yes, I know for a fact that the belief system in it is starting to grow, or has been growing in the last number of years, but I think in some way with what I do, it's really kind of changed a lot of people's opinions and belief systems. So it's just really trying to get that message out there that this stuff does exist, and it's certainly something that people should be aware about.
Well, let me ask you this question: what and I ask this to the Rev quite often. What are your thoughts on the people who are out there? And I'm not. I guess I'm going to say possibly are faking evidence. Okay, because there are certain people out there that their mandate is you find something or you create something. Because you got a big name TV show, you're either going to find something or you're going to create something. We're not going to let you stand there wearing your sunglasses looking pretty. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't spill the secret on who I'm talking about, am I? Did I?
No, I don't think so.
So what are your thoughts on people who are out there who obviously are fabricating, I'm going to put it nicely, fabricating evidence?
So honestly, when it comes to people faking evidence, understandably, it's something I'm not the only one, obviously. I'm sure a lot of investigators don't appreciate, because it takes away, like what being a paranormal investigator is all about. You got these people who want to fake evidence. They, of course, especially with a lot of the TV shows, the movies, a lot of the TV shows, obviously want to say that these are demonic entities to try to make the show a lot more interesting. It's kind of a disappointment for me, when I see that happening, because if you look at it, like, especially a lot of the paranormal shows from like 20 plus years ago, yes, there might have been some faking in between, but I think they were a lot more legitimate and more believable than what you see now, because it seems almost as if a desperate act, if you will. I think people are just so desperate of wanting something to happen that it makes them want to fake all this evidence, which is something. And whenever I've gone on investigations, whether I'm participating with either an item, or if it was like, let's say if it was on a Ouija board or a seance or whatever, I always make sure on many occasions to make sure, like if we hear a knock or something, I always check people's feet, their hands to make sure they're not cheating. Because there have been a few times where I have been on a few investigations where we hear something. It's more involving sound than actually seeing something. When you're hearing something and you don't know where it's coming from, you believe it, but unfortunately, you later find out, nope, it was someone making that noise.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. I wanted to ask you that question, but yeah, if you want to continue to talk, we've still got about 25 minutes until the girls come on. So I mean, if you got other things that you want to talk about, you can take your time, or you and I can just sit here and banter, whichever you prefer.
Well, I did actually find some information on Fort Monmouth. So even though I don't have a slideshow for it, I could actually read at least just some parts of it along with the ghost stories associated with it, because I was reading a little bit of it, and it's quite interesting what the history of it has to tell.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm gonna turn the camera off, and I'm gonna kick back and watch, listen to what you found.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, so yes, obviously, since the slideshow was over, I could still find some information. I did find information about Fort Monmouth. You know what? I could actually just do this. This will be just to kind of do somewhat of a slideshow. I'm going to share the page because it also does have some pictures on it. So bear with me for just a moment here. Just let me get the tabs connected because I had to open these on separate windows. All right, so okay, here we go. All right, so focus. Let's make sure this is working correctly. Okay. Oh wait, you know what? Actually, Zach, just if you're still on, just wait, hang on, let me just do this. Never mind. Let's try that again. Okay, yep, there we go. All right. So oh wait, no, this isn't. Oh, that's not the right page. Sorry. Let me try that one more time. All right, there we go. Now we're on the right page. All right, so what I found, I'm not going to read the whole thing because, well, actually, maybe I can because it's not really too much information. I don't know why this is highlighted. So to give a little information, I guess this is obviously one of the earliest photos of Fort Monmouth. Not sure exactly when this was taken, but I'm going to assume that this was probably taken sometime in either in the late 1910s or sometime in the 1920s, which they did. It's the one thing I wish they always had for these photos is putting the actual year. So Fort Monmouth's history can be traced back to the establishment of the Signal Corps training facility in Little Silver in 1917, which, interestingly enough, too, was right around the time when the U.S. entered World War I. The installation gained permanent status in 1925. It was named Fort Monmouth in honor of the soldiers of the American Revolution who died in the Battle of Monmouth Courthouse. Fort Monmouth served as the home of the Signal Corps laboratories and later the Signal Corps Center, consolidating several Signal Corps functions at Fort Monmouth. The Electronics Command, ECOM, was established at Fort Monmouth in 1962 and managed signal research, development, and logistics support. Maybe it's pronounced as ECOM. It was later fragmented into 3 commands and 1 activity at Fort Monmouth until being combined as the new Communications Electronics Command, CECOM, effective May 1st, 1981. In 1993, the Base Realignment and Closure BRAC Commission mandated the closing of the Evans Area Vint Hill Farm Station and the command office building in Tinton Falls. Tinton Falls, I think that's how you say it. In 1995, BRAC ordered the relocation of the Avionics Logistics Support Mission from St. Louis to Fort Monmouth. In 2005, Brock ordered the closure of Fort Monmouth and the relocation of the CCOM to Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, APG. The CCOM flag was cased at Fort Monmouth on September 10, 2010. The colors were encased on October 22nd of that year, marking CCOM's official arrival at APG. Here's some interesting facts about it. The forerunner of the Army Air Corps in the U.S. Air Force had its roots at Fort Monmouth. In 1928, the first radio-equipped meteorological balloon soared into the upper reaches of the atmosphere, a forerunner of a wet weather sounding technique universally used today. In 1938, the first U.S. aircraft detection radar was developed here. In 1946, space communications proved feasible when the Diana radar was used to bounce electronic signals off the moon. Wow. That's fascinating. The Army's Homing Pigeon Service, headquartered at Fort Monmouth since the end of World War II, was discounted in 1957 due to advances in communication systems. Many courier pigeons were sold at auction, while hero pigeons with distinguished service records were donated to zoos. Well, that's fascinating. I'm gonna stop this for just a quick moment. Now that we got the history on this place, let me find the ghost stories associated with Fort Monmouth. So bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so we got a full page here. Excuse me. All right, so I'm not going to be able to obviously read the whole thing because it would take me quite a while to read. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead on this part. All right, so on the paranormal side of Haunted Monmouth, wait a minute, is this? Okay, it is. Okay, I just wanted to make sure this was the right one because at first I didn't recognize it at first. Okay, so this is more focused on the Monmouth University. Consider, for instance, Wilson Hall. Okay, I'm just going to point out something very quickly just before I start reading this. It is so, I actually got a brief chill just reading this because I'm actually working on another presentation that I'll be showing in the future. It's not a military base. It's actually a university. And the document that I was about to work on later tonight was a location called Wilson Hall. But it's not this Wilson Hall. It's one located out in Ohio. In fact, actually one of the campuses of Ohio University. So that's really weird that there's another Wilson Hall here that I was literally about to work on. That's just so strange. According to Kelly, long before it was an aesthetic staple of the university's campus, Wilson Hall, or Shadow Lawn, that's kind of ironic. That's another name for another haunted location, but located in Rhode Island. As it was known at the time, was the home of Hubert Templeton Parson and his wife Maisie. Both of them suffered much in its halls. Having made their fortune in the wall of mercantile, the Parsons were, as Kelly puts it, not novo rich and never quite fit in with the blue bloods of Monmouth County. No mansion could make them fully acceptable, and they felt the sting of that, says Kelly. Who is Kelly? Oh, this must be right here on the top. Okay. Oh, she's the owner of Paranormal Books and Curiosities in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Okay. Hubert Parson was the second president of the FDW Woolworth Company. Wait a minute. Is this the same? Because now I'm actually a little bit confused. I don't know if this has anything to do with the fort itself. You know what? I'm going to save this for on a different episode because, I mean, I don't think this has anything to do with the fort itself, but it does have a very interesting story to bring up. So I'm going to check a different page. And this might be the last one. You know what? I do have one other location, which is another military fort. I'd like to talk about just before we end it for tonight. So, see, okay, only in your state. This is an even better location. Okay, I think this is the actual. Or wait, is it? You know what? It's not the fort, but it is focusing on the battlefield of New Jersey. So I'm gonna share the screen once again for this. And so this is considered the haunted battlefield in New Jersey. It was, of course, not surprising. It was a major battleground during the American Revolutionary War. George Washington and his troops famously crossed the Delaware to win the Battle of Trenton in the most well-known Garden State fight. The Battle of Monmouth was a skirmish that led no conclusive victory or defeat, just a lot of bloodshed and damage to morale on both sides. Okay, it's a battlefield preserve state park. Oh, wow, that's actually kind of an eerie picture with the snow like that. I can't even tell if that's either in color or in black and white. Between 650 and 1,600 soldiers died in this bloody battle in a series of attacks and retreats. The wide open fields have been well preserved. You can walk the same lines that the soldiers walked on June 28, 1778. The bloody Battle of Monmouth was mismanaged by General Charles Lee, and eventually General George Washington had to come to push the British back. Yeah, it is quite a beautiful location, but yeah, that doesn't cover what happened. There are over 250, almost basically about 245 years ago. Over the years, visitors, researchers, and ghost hunters have noticed all sorts of paranormal happenings here. You visit on a calm, quiet day, keep your ears perked. You might hear a sad wail in a warm summer breeze. That's not surprising. While the result of the battle was inconclusive, one piece of history from the Battle of Monmouth has stayed in folklore for centuries: the story of Molly Pitcher. Okay. A few days after the battle had ended, a story was passed around in the field hospitals telling the tale of a woman who rushed into a man to man the guns after her husband was wounded. She carried ammunition, and when the soldiers were capable in their positions, she began to bring water to the Americans on the battlefield. While this woman was most likely Mary Ludwig Hayes from Pennsylvania, the name Molly Pitcher is what stuck. Soon the tale of Molly Pitcher at Monmouth blended to represent the contributions of other women in the battle that day and in the future. In the late 1900s, archaeologists and historians found a well in a spot near the artillery line, and it was marked as Molly Pitcher's Spring. Huh. Well, this looks more like a gravestone more than anything. Okay, I'm going to stop the screen just for one final time. Well, not one final time, but it doesn't really say anything else. But like I said, I have one final location that I'm going to bring up. Again, this is one I kind of wish I should have put up onto the list. Ironically enough, this is a fort that is located here in the state of Illinois, although it's way, way further down in the southern part of the state. So, fortunately, it's not going to take too long for me to read all the information on it. So this will be the final location I'll be presenting. It's called Fort Massac, which is located, like I said, down in the southern part of the state in Massac County, Illinois. It's on the Ohio River, and just in case anyone wants to know exactly where it's at, that's literally right on the bottom, literally right on the tail end of Illinois. So, but to read some of the information on this, this is actually, if not, one of the oldest, if not the oldest remaining structure here in the state. Although some of it was reconstructed. As you can see here, this was actually, some of this was reconstructed about 20 years ago, back in 2002. And of course, obviously, in honor of the 200th anniversary of the location. But to read some of the history, though, the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto and his soldiers may have built a fort nearby, incredibly, as early as 1540. Maps from the early 18th century show Ancient Fort, Old Fort, near this location. Fort Mazac was built by the French in 1757 during the French and Indian War and was originally called Fort de la Ascension. The name was changed in 1759 to honor Claude Louis de Espinchal Marquis de Massiac, the French naval minister. Massiac is a French town in the Cantal department. Is that actually? Oh, it is in South. It's in South Central France. The French left the fort at the conclusion of the war, and it was destroyed by the Chickasaw sometime after 1763. In 1778, during the American Revolutionary War, Colonel George Rogers Clark led his you know what? Actually, I'm going to point out very quickly. George Rogers Clark, he actually, we in fact have a street name here in Chicago that's named after him, which is, on another side note, more of a historical note than an actual war note. Clark Street is where, on one of the areas of the street, is where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurred back in 1929. So Colonel George Rogers Clark led his regiment of Long Knives into Illinois near the site of the fort at Massac Creek. The fort was rebuilt in 1794 during the Northwest Indian War. In the fall of 1803, the Lewis and Clark expedition stopped at Fort Massac on its way west, recruiting 2 volunteers. In 1805, General James Wilkinson and Vice President Aaron Burr held discussions at the fort. It is unclear what connection this meeting may have had to the unfolding Burr conspiracy, which was in 1806 to 1807. But as an important river fort in what was then the Western United States, the fort was connected to several events related to the conspiracy. Not surprisingly, and I'm familiar with this event, the fort was repaired after being damaged in the 1811-1812 New Madrid earthquakes, which possibly during the later part of this year, I'm going to be doing an actual slideshow on the 1811-1812 New Madrid earthquakes, which, if you guys haven't heard of that story or the event or of this disaster, if you will, it is unlike anything that I've ever come across, especially with earthquakes. I mean, I'm sure there's probably other earthquakes out there that are even more bizarre, but this one, at least here for the United States, and this was a series of earthquakes that occurred that affected, at least the first earthquake, actually, let's put it this way, affected a good portion of the eastern United States. As I would also put it, not only did it damage the fort, but it was the one earthquake that made the mighty Mississippi River flow backwards. It's an incredible story. We are actually, well, just last year was the 210th anniversary on it, and the year before, because it happened during, like I said, late 1811, 1812. But it's an incredible story. But anyways, getting back to this, though, it was decommissioned in 1814. Now, one thing I also want to point out, too, on Fort Mazac is all of what I've read here on this place. Obviously, going back is to the 1540s. This was even before even any of the U.S. territory, well, U.S. colonies, excuse me, any of the U.S. colonies were ever formed. The first colony, obviously, that we had was Virginia, which that wasn't formed until the early 1600s. So I believe during this period of time, and even when the colonies were formed, Illinois was originally part of Canadian territory. So it's just amazing to read such a historic fort like this, that this all occurred before Illinois ever even became a state. Illinois Illinois didn't become a state and admitted to the Union until 1818. So, but adding just a little bit more, because I believe I don't have as much time left now because we are almost out of time. Just to wrap it up, the Fort Massac site became the first Illinois state park in 1908. In the 1970s, a partial reconstruction of the 1794 U.S. Army fort was built, but in 2002 it was torn down, and a smaller but more detailed version for it, as it appeared in 1802, was reconstructed. So there was one page that did talk. It is said to be haunted. Don't get me wrong, but I can't remember where did I see it? Oh wait, okay, wait. I didn't have the page, but you know what? Yes, I do. Let's see. Oh wait, I thought this might have been the page. Okay, I think this might be. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. This is okay. This is what I was. Here's what I was looking for. So if I could find, I got to scroll through all this to find it. Let's see. It's not even going to take that long to read, to be honest. So Fort Massac, where was? Oh wait, I thought that's where it was located. Oh wait, no, here we go. Okay, found it. Here we go. So okay, so it is said to be reportedly haunted by people killed in brutal Native American attacks. According to the book History, Mystery, and Hauntings of Southern Illinois by Bruce and Lisa Klein, the French like I said before, the French was named the facility Fort. Oh, okay, actually no, this is something different. When you see a name like this, Fort Massac, I didn't even think of this. The French named the facility, get this, Fort Massacre, which was later shortened. The fort has been considered haunted since 1818. Wow, since the founding of the state of Illinois, the Kleins wrote. They say park employees report doors opening and closing and items moving by themselves. Surprisingly, this is a location I have not been to, but like I said, we're going to have to eventually make this into a full episode, future episode. So that's really fascinating. Well, I think at this point, I think we covered. I know, again, it wasn't fully detailed, but I think we definitely did cover quite enough locations. Hey, Zach, yeah, but I think we definitely covered quite a number of locations, military and fort-wise. So it was quite a journey looking for those locations.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, kid. I think that you did a great job. I really did. I enjoyed it. When we first started talking to Jeremy about simulcasting over onto Things Network, I wanted to make sure that we did it to where your show could still go on, because I do enjoy your show, and I love the way that you were able to work as hard as you did to make it go into what our purpose is on this day, and pay respects to those who, now if you tie it in, these are individuals. You had that one where there were a whole bunch of soldiers who took their own lives. So right. There's, that's what this day is all about. That's what this day has been about, trying to find ways that, we don't want any more military bases where, misery hauntings are the normal. Let's get some happy ghosts in there because they had a great time, serving, and instead of everything else. But I love what you were able to do. I love that you were able to put this together and keep it part of the mission, which is the community mission to Rescue 22. Again, beautifully put, beautifully done. Never a boring moment. I love the work you do.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Yeah, well, Nick, I do, again, I want to thank you for all the hard work that you do on all of your shows. I'm thrilled to have you as part of the Pack channel every Wednesday at 5:30 East, which is right before my normal show, which I should be getting ready for. But you know what? I get to take a break now. So, uh, my lovely bride, which your show is tomorrow. You get to arm wrestle with her tomorrow night. But she and Jan are going to take over, and they're going to do a little bit of a show. I'm going to go and eat something and decompress a little bit. But still tonight, we've got quite a few guests that are going to be joining us after Jan and Adrian do their show. We've got one that you'll know coming up in a little over an hour. You got Eileen and her friend Patty. They're going to be joining us. Richard Kaufman, a national radio podcaster, veteran podcaster who is a disabled vet, is going to be joining us. Bart Bartholomew, talked about him all night because he's just a hero to me from Project Die Hard. And Steve Palick is going to be joining us at 8:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Pacific. Excuse me, 11. Get this, Nick. At 11 o'clock Eastern Time, we've got a group that they are veterans, but they use gaming to communicate. They play,
Really?
yeah, they play video games so they can communicate and they can still talk to each other the way that they talk to each other during the service. And it's a
Right.
way that they can, that they play games, and they've got a 2 hour block on, because I think this is very unique, and I really wanted to put an emphasis on what they do. We may have a couple guests pop in to talk with us, but the main point is going to be watching how they do this, and kind of letting us in the civilian world understand a little bit more about the culture. And when this is going to be brought to you by Black Dahlia, or I'm sorry, Autumn Dahlia, Black Dahlia. Yep, a little tired. Autumn Dahlia Creative Services, but I'm stoked to watch a little bit of that. But again, Nick, I want to thank you very much for your contribution. You did great. I loved it. I couldn't have been any happier with your presentation.
Absolutely. It's definitely my pleasure. So
Uh,
thank you for getting me involved in this. Thank you.
Hey, you know what? Next February 22nd, we're going to be sitting right here. We're going to be sitting here until we lose no more. So you're more than welcome to join us again next year, and we can really do some great things with this.
Absolutely. I'm
All
all
right.
for it.
All right. But thank you, Nick. We'll talk to you tomorrow on your regular podcast. So,
Yeah, no, it's going to be an exciting one too, because I don't know if you know, 2 days, my birthday's coming up. So,
happy
yeah.
birthday. Happy birthday, buddy. So, all right. So that means that they're going to be they're going to be pulling all kinds of pranks on you again, huh?
Well, it's also a special one too, because, well, honestly, regarding my age, I'm leaving one decade of my life and starting a new one, the big 30, so starting 30.
Oh, damn kids.
So I'm sure they're going to have a lot of pranks on me for this case, for that reason.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, every once in a while I still have pictures of like cockroaches that pop up on my computer because of
Oh,
that
no.
conversation that you and Adrian had. I'll be skimming through my pictures and I'm like, why is there a cockroach on my computer? And then I have to go back and remember that you and Adrian were doing that, and I'm like going, that's why there's a cockroach.
Yeah,
on
because
my
they use it
computer.
to scare the hell out of me.
So, but yeah, it is. It's so funny when that pops up. I can't help but think of you. So, but again, Nick, once again, fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I'll get to talk to you again. But you know what? Happy birthday. I wish you all the best. And I'll be sitting here enjoying your show tomorrow. Well, actually, I'll be sitting out there probably drooling all over the couch tomorrow listening to your show. So, but I thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Again, thanks again for getting me involved, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
You got it, buddy. You're already penciled in. So yeah, no, you're pinned in. You've got the job. So all right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye. Nick Muley, look, the guy does this every week on the PAC channel. He informs us about different paranormal sites. He does a lot of work on this, and this is his passion. This truly is. He's a great kid. He really is. I got to meet him about a year and a half ago now, and ever since then, I just have all the respect in the world for him. He works really hard at these shows, and I think the great thing about him is there's not any stones that aren't turned. Yeah, he struggles with some of the bigger words, but it doesn't take away from what he does. What he does is amazing, and I appreciate everything that he does. So it is time for us to go to segment 9. So getting closer. getting closer, and as I told Nick, it is time for me to step away. My beautiful bride is going to be taking over with her friend Jan. They're going to be talking as they did last year, and Jan is a military wife, and they're going to be talking about issues that military wives have, and they're going to be adding their side to this, which is really important, because you know what, since 2:00 this morning, so for the last 15 hours, it's been my opinion and my opinion only. So I think it's really great that we're going to hear from somebody else and get some knowledge from someone else. So I do want to warn you, Arizona or New Mexico is getting some hellacious winds. So if there is a little bit of hokey internet in which she's going to try to do it on her phone, please be patient. She's going to do everything she can. But to all you guys who are out there in these winds, please be careful. Be careful. And to all of us here in Colorado, put on a coat, you dummy. It's 3 degrees. We've only got 3 degrees today. Right now, there's only 3 of them. That's insane.
Negative 14 wind chill.
Oh, negative 14 wind chill. Thank God. Oh, we got less than degrees. That's awesome. And I was thinking about going out for a walk to try to wake up. Well, that'll do it. So, but anyway, I'm taking a little bit of a break. We're going to be starting up again here in a second. We're going to be starting segment 9. I'm proud to introduce my wife, Adrienne, and Jan. She'll be on in just a minute. All you got to do is look up. We'll be right here. Thank you.